Viewer discretion. Welcome to Altiverse Studio, where history meets imagination. Our content delves into alternate timelines, speculative scenarios, and reimagined historical events, inspired by creative storytelling, academic theories, and thought-provoking what-if analyses. While grounded in real historical contexts, all of our videos are works of speculative fiction and are not intended to represent actual events or predict real-world outcomes. We do not promote any political ideology, nationalism, revisionism, or historical denialism. Our aim is solely to educate and entertain through imaginative storytelling. The characters, nations, and events portrayed may differ significantly from real history, dramatized for narrative purposes to explore possibilities rather than assert truths. Historical references are based on publicly available data, research, and theoretical frameworks, but timelines are intentionally altered for the sake of exploration. If you're seeking strict historical accuracy, this may not be the place. But if you're here to imagine how small moments might have changed the course of history, welcome to the Altiverse.
What if I told you that the richest person who ever lived wasn't Jeff Bezos, wasn't Elon Musk, and wasn't even John D. Rockefeller? What if I told you it was a 14th century African king whose wealth was so incomprehensible that when he went on pilgrimage, he single-handedly crashed the gold market for an entire decade? And what if I told you that if this man, Mansa Musa, lived in our modern world of the 22nd century, he wouldn't just be rich, he would fundamentally reshape the entire fabric of human civilization? Today, we're diving into one of the most mind-bending thought experiments you've ever heard. We're taking the legendary Mansa Musa, the emperor of Mali who controlled more gold than entire continents, and dropping him into a world of quantum computers, interstellar travel, and technologies we can barely imagine. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why this isn't just about wealth. It's about power, influence, and the very future of humanity itself. But first, let me paint you a picture of just how impossibly wealthy Mansa Musa actually was. When historians try to calculate his net worth, they literally run out of numbers. Conservative estimates put his wealth at over $400 billion in today's money. But that's like trying to measure the ocean with a coffee cup. The man controlled the largest sources of gold and salt in the medieval world. And in a time when these were literally worth their weight in, well, gold, he was essentially printing money. The most famous story about Mansa Musa's wealth comes from his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324. Picture this: a caravan of 60,000 people, including 12,000 slaves, each carrying 4 pounds of gold bars. Mansa Musa himself rode on horseback, preceded by 500 slaves, each carrying a 6-pound golden staff. When this procession reached Cairo, Mansa Musa was so generous with his gold that he gave away and spent so much that the price of gold plummeted and didn't recover for 10 years. One man's generosity destroyed an entire regional economy. Now, imagine this level of wealth in the 22nd century. We're talking about a time when humanity has colonized Mars, when artificial intelligence has solved most of our current problems, when nanotechnology can rebuild matter at the molecular level. In this world, what would wealth even mean? And more importantly, what would someone with Mansa Musa's mindset do with technologies that could reshape reality itself? Let's start with the obvious: terraforming. In the 22nd century, the ultimate display of wealth won't be owning a yacht or a private island. It'll be owning entire planets. Mansa Musa, with his legendary ambition and resources, wouldn't just buy existing colonies. He'd commission the terraforming of entire solar systems. Imagine fleets of planet-sized machines, converting dead worlds into lush paradises, each one a testament to his vision and power. But here's where it gets interesting. Mansa Musa wasn't just wealthy, he was incredibly intelligent about how he used his wealth. He understood that true power came from controlling resources that everyone needed. In the 14th century, that was gold and salt. In the 22nd century, that would be energy, information, and the building blocks of matter itself. Think about it. In a world where fusion reactors power cities and antimatter drives propel ships between stars,
who controls the fundamental particles that make this technology possible. Mansa Musa would position himself at the center of the energy economy. He'd own not just the reactors, but the very quarks and quantum fields that make fusion possible. He'd be the man who literally controls the power that lights up half the galaxy. But energy is just the beginning. In the 22nd century, information is the ultimate currency. We're talking about a time when human consciousness can be uploaded, when AI systems can predict the future with startling accuracy, when the line between reality and virtual reality has completely disappeared. Mansa Musa would understand that whoever controls information controls everything else. Picture this. Mansa Musa commissioning the construction of quantum computers the size of moons, processing power so vast that they can simulate entire universes. He wouldn't just be running businesses, he'd be running reality itself. Want to know what the stock market will do next week? Mansa Musa's computers have already calculated it. Want to know what scientific breakthrough will happen next? His AI systems have already invented it. And here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. Mansa Musa was famous for his generosity, but also for his strategic thinking. His legendary pilgrimage to Mecca wasn't just about religion. It was about showing the world his power and establishing diplomatic relationships that would benefit his empire for generations. In the 22nd century, his pilgrimage would be to the stars themselves. Imagine Mansa Musa funding the first expedition to Proxima Centauri, not because he needs to, but because he wants to establish his presence in every corner of the galaxy. His ships wouldn't just be exploring, they'd be claiming. Every planet, every asteroid, every resource-rich moon would bear his mark. He'd be the first human to establish a true interstellar empire. But here's what makes this scenario truly mind-bending. Mansa Musa understood the power of culture and religion. He wasn't just a king, he was a spiritual leader, a cultural icon, a symbol of African power and sophistication. In the 22nd century, he wouldn't just be wealthy, he'd be the center of a new form of civilization. Think about how religion and spirituality might evolve in a world where humans can travel to other stars, where AI can answer any question, where the boundaries between mind and machine have blurred. Mansa Musa would position himself as the bridge between the spiritual and the technological. He'd fund the construction of temples that exist in virtual reality, pilgrimage sites on distant planets, spiritual experiences that combine meditation with quantum consciousness. His influence would extend into the very nature of what it means to be human. In a world where genetic engineering can eliminate disease, where cybernetic implants can enhance human capability, where consciousness can be transferred between bodies, Mansa Musa would be funding the research that determines the future of human evolution itself. Picture vast orbital laboratories funded by Mansa Musa, where scientists work on projects that sound like science fiction even by 22nd century standards. They're developing ways to upload human consciousness into quantum computers, creating artificial bodies that can survive in the vacuum of space, designing genetic modifications that allow humans to photosynthesize like plants. Mansa Musa wouldn't just be wealthy, he'd be the architect of the next phase of human evolution. But let's think about the economics of this. In the 22nd century, traditional concepts of money might not even exist. When nanotechnology can create any material good from basic elements, when AI can perform any intellectual task, when energy is essentially unlimited, what does it mean to be wealthy? Mansa Musa would understand that wealth in this era isn't about having things. It's about having the power to shape reality itself. He'd be the one who decides which technologies get developed, which planets get colonized, which problems get solved. Want to cure aging? You'll need Mansa Musa's quantum computers. Want to travel faster than light? You'll need his antimatter reserves. Want to contact alien civilizations? You'll need his galaxy-spanning communication networks. And here's the really fascinating part. Mansa Musa was known for his justice and fairness. Unlike many wealthy rulers throughout history, he was respected not just for his power, but for his wisdom. In the 22nd century, this would make him not just the richest person in human history, but potentially the most important. Imagine him as the mediator in conflicts between Earth and Mars, the arbiter in disputes between different AI systems, the wise counselor who helps humanity navigate the ethical complexities of godlike technology. His wealth would give him the power to enforce his decisions, but his wisdom would make those decisions worth following. The ripple effects would be staggering. Art in the 22nd century would be influenced by Mansa Musa's patronage. Think about artists who can sculpt with light itself, who can compose symphonies that exist in 11 dimensions, who can create paintings that change based on the observer's quantum state. Mansa Musa would be funding art forms that we can't even imagine. Science would accelerate at an unprecedented pace. With unlimited resources and the wisdom to use them well, Mansa Musa would be funding research projects that tackle the biggest questions in the universe. How did consciousness arise? Is there life elsewhere in the galaxy? Can we travel backwards in time? Can we create new universes? These wouldn't just be theoretical questions. They'd be practical problems with unlimited funding. But perhaps most intriguingly, Mansa Musa would be dealing with problems that wealth alone can't solve. In the 22nd century, humanity might be facing existential threats that require more than just money. Rogue artificial intelligences, alien invasions, the heat death of the universe. These are challenges that require wisdom, courage, and moral authority as much as they require resources. This is where Mansa Musa's historical legacy becomes crucial. He wasn't just wealthy. He was a leader who understood that true power comes from earning the respect and loyalty of others. In the 22nd century, facing threats that could destroy all of human civilization, his wealth would be meaningless without the trust of billions of people across hundreds of worlds. Picture him addressing the United Planets Assembly, speaking to representatives from Earth, Mars, the asteroid belt, and the outer planet colonies. He's not just the richest person in human history. He's the one person everyone trusts to make decisions that affect the entire species. When he speaks, entire fleets of starships change course. When he makes a decision, the fate of solar systems hangs in the balance. But here's the twist that makes the scenario even more compelling. What if Mansa Musa's presence in the 22nd century actually prevents humanity from reaching its full potential? What if his overwhelming wealth and power, even used wisely, creates a dependency that stunts human growth? What if the very benevolence that makes him a good leader also makes humanity weaker? This is the paradox of ultimate wealth and power. Mansa Musa would face the same challenge that all truly powerful people face: how to use power in a way that empowers others rather than diminishing them. In the 22nd century, with technology that could literally reshape reality, this question becomes existential. Maybe the most interesting version of this story is one where Mansa Musa, recognizing this paradox, deliberately limits his own power. Maybe he uses his vast wealth to create systems that distribute power more evenly, to ensure that no one person, not even himself, has too much control over humanity's future. Imagine him funding the development of technologies that make everyone wealthy, that give every person access to the tools they need to shape their own destiny. Instead of hoarding power, he uses his power to eliminate the very concept of scarcity that made him powerful in the first place. This would be the ultimate expression of Mansa Musa's historical character, using overwhelming wealth and power not to dominate, but to liberate. In the 22nd century, his greatest achievement wouldn't be accumulating more wealth or power. It would be making wealth and power irrelevant. The story comes full circle. Mansa Musa's legendary generosity, which once crashed the gold market in Cairo, would crash the entire concept of economic inequality in the 22nd century. His pilgrimage wouldn't just be to Mecca. It would be to a future where every human being has the resources and freedom to reach their full potential. But even in this utopian outcome, Mansa Musa would remain special. Not because of his wealth, but because of his wisdom. In a world where everyone has access to incredible technology and unlimited resources, the person who understands how to use these gifts wisely becomes the most valuable person of all. And that's the real lesson of this thought experiment. Mansa Musa wasn't just the richest person in history. He was one of the wisest. In the 22nd century, surrounded by technologies that could easily destroy humanity as easily as they could save it, that wisdom would be more valuable than all the gold in the medieval world. As we wrap up this incredible journey through time and space, think about what this story really tells us about wealth, power, and human nature. Mansa Musa's true legacy isn't the gold he gave away in Cairo. It's the example he set of how to use overwhelming advantages for the benefit of others. In our own time, as we face challenges that seem impossible to solve, as we develop technologies that could reshape our world, as we grapple with questions of how to distribute power and resources fairly, Maybe we need to channel a little bit of Mansa Musa's wisdom. Maybe the question isn't just how to accumulate wealth and power, but how to use whatever advantages we have to create a better world for everyone. The 22nd century version of Mansa Musa might be science fiction, but the principles that would guide him are available to us right now. The question is, what are we going to do with them? If this glimpse into the Altiverse sparked your imagination, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us on this journey through forgotten futures and hidden truths. More stories await, stories that blur the line between myth and memory, history and possibility. We thank you for your support.